Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of history's great paradoxes. A story that, on the surface, makes absolutely no sense. We're going to talk about how the catastrophic failure of a Messiah, his public betrayal of his own faith, didn't just destroy his movement, no, it somehow supercharged it, turning it into a secret revolutionary force that would reshape Judaism for centuries to come.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 1665, and for Jewish communities all over the world, things are, well, they're desperate. You've got the Ashkenazi Jews in Eastern Europe who had just suffered through horrific massacres. You've got the Sephardic Jews still feeling the trauma of being expelled from Spain. The idea of a Messiah, of an end to all this exile and suffering, wasn't just a vague hope. It was an urgent, desperate need.
And right into this powder keg steps a man named Sabbatai Zevi. He's a charismatic mystic from Turkey, and he's not just another preacher with a small following. His prophet, a brilliant young scholar named Nathan of Gaza, declares him to be the one, the long-awaited Messiah, and that message just ignites the Jewish world like nothing seen in 1,000 years.
And the reaction was, frankly, staggering. This wasn't a fringe movement. This was a total social upheaval. All across Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, people just stopped what they were doing. Merchants sold off their businesses. Families sold their homes. The rich were chartering ships to carry everyone, rich and poor alike, to the Holy Land, because for them, it was a done deal. The Messianic age had finally begun.
But in 1666, at the absolute peak of this global joy, the whole story just completely implodes. Sabbatai Zevi is brought before the Ottoman Sultan, and he's given a choice: convert to Islam or die. And the Messiah chose conversion. He put on a turban and publicly abandoned Judaism.
The shockwave was immediate and absolutely devastating. The sources from the time talk about this immense disillusionment. I mean, can you even imagine? You've bet your entire life, your soul, your future on this one person, only to watch him betray everything you stand for. Logically, that should have been the end of the story, full stop.
And that right there is the central mystery we're exploring today. How could this possibly have happened? The movement should have collapsed in on itself, buried under shame and confusion. But it didn't. In fact, its most radical and maybe its most influential phase was just getting started. So, how on earth is that possible?
Well, for a long time, historians really didn't have a good answer. And that's because all the clues were hiding in a place they refused to look: Jewish mysticism, or Kabbalah. You have to understand, for the serious, rational historians of the 19th century, this stuff wasn't history, it was something else.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? That was the attitude. Mainstream academia saw Kabbalah as an embarrassment. It was irrational, superstitious, junk. They couldn't imagine that the answer to a massive historical puzzle was buried in the very text they were throwing in the trash.
But that all changed in the 20th century thanks to our historical detective Gershom Scholem. He was this incredible, rebellious scholar who looked at what he called these scattered, shabby pages and saw something totally different. He believed that this neglected junk wasn't junk at all. It was the key to unlocking a secret history of revolutionary spiritual ideas.
So what does Scholem find in all that supposed junk? He uncovered an absolutely stunning act of what you could call theological jujitsu. Faced with the reality that should have shattered their faith, the believers didn't abandon their Messiah. Instead, they redefined everything. They argued that his betrayal was actually his greatest holy act. And this was the brilliant explanation that came from Nathan of Gaza. The idea was this: the Messiah's real job is to rescue these divine sparks of holiness that are trapped in the realm of evil. But the last, most important sparks are hidden so deep you can't just reach in and grab them. No, the Messiah has to go undercover. He has to descend into the belly of the beast to get them out. From that point of view, Zevi's conversion wasn't a failure at all. It was a disguise, a heroic, deep-cover mission into enemy territory.
They argued that this one act had secretly kick-started the Messianic age. And that meant the rules of the game had changed. The old Torah, the one for the world of creation, our physical world of exile with all its strict laws, that was being replaced by a new spiritual Torah for the new Messianic age. And in this new reality, those old laws, they were suspended.
And this led to one of the most mind-bending ideas in religious history. For the true believers, the most radical ones, it meant that the only way to truly fulfill the new spiritual Torah was to break the laws of the old one.
Sin wasn't sin anymore. It was a holy act. Committing a forbidden act became the ultimate statement of faith in the Messiah and the new world he had created.
So, what happens to a movement that now believes its leader is a secret agent for God and that sinning can be a form of prayer? I mean, where can you possibly go from there?
It went into hiding. See, the believers realized they didn't have to convert to Islam, like their Messiah did to copy his holy mission. They could do it right inside Judaism. They could live their lives as outwardly perfect, observant Jews while secretly believing in this whole new messianic reality. They practiced what Scholem called a holy hypocrisy, becoming secret converts within their own communities.
And as you can see here, this secret fire kept burning for well over a century. It sparked these bitter, ugly conflicts, like the one in Amsterdam where a famous rabbi was accused of being a secret believer. And it even spawned more extreme spin-offs, like the Frankist movement, which took these ideas to really destructive places before eventually converting to Catholicism.
And this brings us to Scholem's really big, game-changing argument. He said that this crisis, this radical, paradoxical break with tradition, was the psychological earthquake that shattered the old medieval Jewish world. It unleashed a new, chaotic, revolutionary energy that forced Judaism to grapple with modernity way before the Enlightenment ever did.
And in the end, it leaves us with this powerful question. The undeniable historical fact was that a man who claimed to be the Messiah converted to another religion. But the story his followers told themselves about that fact, a story of a heroic spy on a divine mission, that story was so powerful it kept a movement alive for generations and changed the course of history. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Which one is truly more powerful?